Get ready because the shipping industry is ripe for disruption. You're listening to Autonomous Ships Headquarters Podcast with your host, JP.
Everybody, welcome to Autonomous Ships Headquarters Podcast. The goal of this podcast is to introduce to you people and companies behind digital revolution that is transforming the shipping industry. I'm your host, Jure Pavlica, or more easily just JP, and today's guest is Ann-Sofie Pauwelyn. Ann-Sofie is a project manager working at the Vlaamse Waterweg. That is the governmental agency responsible for waterways management in the Flemish part of the Belgium. They're responsible for managing over 1,000 kilometers of navigable inland waterways, and as you can imagine, keeping up with the latest technology developments is very important for them. Ann-Sofie is the woman in charge and a point of contact for all projects related to smart shipping, and in this episode, she will tell you what is their approach in dealing with these subjects. Just before we start, I need to apologize. I had too much coffee before this interview, which resulted in too many mhms. So just ignore them and listen to Ann-Sofie. Let's go. Hello, Ann-Sofie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
So let's start with you telling us how you ended up working in the Vlaamse Waterweg and what it is that they do.
That's a very long question to start with. Before I worked at the Vlaamse Waterweg, I already worked at the Flemish government, but then in another department. And as my background is partially European political sciences, there was a free spot in the Vlaamse Waterweg to coordinate all policies that have to do with Europe and actually also international, and supporting the colleagues in finding the right projects to apply for to get European subsidies.
Okay.
So I had to know a bit of everything and a bit of all the European policies and just make sure they are
everything fits together and everything's compatible.
And then after a few years, the topic of autonomous shipping came up. Was totally new, and our manager asked us, is this something that could be important for a waterway manager? Because I forget to tell you what is the Vlaamse Waterweg. So we're a waterway manager. We own the inland navigable waterways in Flanders.
Okay.
We maintain them. We also are responsible for flood management.
All right.
It's mainly in the north, that's a region. And then we try to green transport by trying to get as much cargo off the road towards inland waterways.
Okay, interesting.
So that's partially something you can achieve with innovation. And that's why I started working as a European policy manager, because Europe also focuses on innovations, as do we. And then we could try to scale up our innovative projects through Europe and through cooperation. So, and then autonomous shipping came up. We did some research, and there wasn't much to find.
Exactly.
A few years ago, there was almost nobody working on it. But we used our minds.
Yes,
and we found out that actually there are a lot of advantages for unmanned shipping for the sector, for us as a government as well. So we decided to support it.
Great.
And I found it such a fascinating subject that I proposed myself as responsible for this topic. And they agreed with it. And in the beginning, it was not so much work because there was not much to find about.
There was a lot of studying, I guess, and figuring things out.
Yes. And then it grew and grew and grew and grew until last year, I think. Then we had a merger with another waterway authority.
Okay.
And then jobs were switched. And I actually could create my own job.
Great. Yeah. It's creative freedom.
There was space for a full-time person working on unmanned shipping, so actually kind of grew.
So this is like your project that you're now basically responsible within the Vlaamse Waterweg.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And so it's a very nice story how this whole thing evolved, and it's definitely a strategic subject for not only Flemish region, but in Belgium in general.
Yes.
And why don't you just mentioned this initiative from road to water.
Yeah.
What is it about? Is it something happening on the European level? Is this initiative on the Belgium level? Like, what are we trying to achieve, and who is pushing for this?
We are actually every day confronted with huge traffic jams, and it's not fun, not at all. And if we see what is actually on the roads, a lot of these things shouldn't be there, or in trucks.
All these trucks and containers and
transported by train or by inland waterway. And because Flanders, also like the regions around Flanders as well, Flanders has a very dense waterway network, and it hasn't reached its full potential yet. So because like the greater goal is just to make Flanders more green, more healthy, but also push it economically. So that's why we think that there are interesting business cases to bring cargo from road to waterway.
Definitely.
That you have everything together, economical business cases and more green transport. That's the focus we have in Flanders, but it's also something you can see returning on the European level. Yeah.
This was my next question. So there's also like a will and some sort of policies on European level to get this road to sea to water initiative.
There is this connecting European
like inland waterways
or something.
Okay.
Not framework. Facility. Connecting European facility. And they are focusing on making the transport ways, not just roads, but also train.
Okay, I get it. Like multimodal. They want to find a good balance between...
and they want to make sure that you can just travel from A to B as a person or with cargo as fast and efficient as possible. And they focus not only on road, but also on the trains, on the air, but also on maritime and inland waterways. So they created this kind of corridors where also inland waterways play a big role.
And you already mentioned a couple of potential benefits, but what are an overview or all of the benefits that you saw in when applying autonomous solutions and unmanned applications in inland waterways? So, obvious one is if we put it that if these vessels are, for example, electric, there will be less CO2 emissions along the waterway. So that's one is obvious. What are some other benefits that you found?
In our research, we divided into people, profit, planet.
People, profit, planet.
Yeah, that these are the advantages. So, for the people, we now see there's a lack of people who want to work in the sector, and the people who are working there are a bit older, and they might kind of disappear from the sector.
You don't get an influx of young workforce in this.
But the young people don't like the way things work now, so we think with autonomy the job will change, might be more attractive for younger people. It will also probably shift more into a 9-to-5 job, which is not for everybody so interesting, but the people with a family, for example, it would be nice that they could be at home. And because things also shift to more a technical level, there will be a need for people with a different backgrounds in the sector than people that there are now. And if you bring people with a different backgrounds into a sector, they might see things in a different way as well. And that might maybe also create possibilities to grow. It will also make navigation more safe. I think that's it's quite obvious.
Yeah, it's one of the perfect applications for, especially because you have good connectivity. For example, in inland waterways, we don't have a problem like we have in deep sea with poor satellite connections and no bandwidth, high latency. And so in your presentations, you mentioned something called the FiveStep Approach. So this is like a strategy that you're trying to deploy. Could you tell us a bit more about what it is?
The FiveStep Approach is something we started a few years ago. First step was identifying the benefits. People, profit, planet. Profit is then more the business cases, the new business cases that can be used. Because we have a lot of smaller inland waterways that are not used that much anymore. So if we could find new types of vessels that are unmanned, they could bring cargo to new places. If you reduce people on board there, crew costs can go up to a third of the total operational cost of a smaller ship. So if you could reduce that a little bit,
there's already a case.
And there are also a lot of environmental positive aspects about it, as you mentioned, like the
electrification and less CO2. And
so that was number one, benefits, but also, of course, the challenges, because I maybe told you about we can go on with the sector even though people are leaving it, but that doesn't mean at all that some people might maybe lose their job, so it's also a challenge, so we also want to check that part. Okay, so that was step one. Then our conclusion was that it's actually quite interesting and good for the economy and for Flanders and for the environment to focus on autonomy, not just to reach autonomy, but just as a part to achieve this modal shift road to waterway. So then we checked what is possible today, what does the legislation say. We did some research.
Was that like a step 2 in the plan?
Yeah, step 2. And there the research said that some important laws prohibited the use of unmanned vessels. So then we were thinking, how can we then make sure that the people who want to test and who believe in their business cases can actually go further?
To get some sort of a waiver or something.
Yeah, because we had questions from companies to test. So then we thought, let's make some more research on the law and regulation to see what we can do, what we can't. And in the meantime, we go to step 3 and set up a test area in Flanders, where they can test. At first, they could only test according to the law and regulation. And the test area is all the navigable inland waterways under our authority.
All right.
Yeah.
So that was like 1,000 kilometers of...
1,076, yes.
All right.
Yeah, we chose to do it like this because if we would only give a canal without lock and without current, not everything could be tested. And then we as a government would steer innovation in a certain way, but maybe there would be other ways that are better and more efficient. So we thought, let's just open up everything. And then if you talk with the company and if you know a bit about their plan, then you can decide together whether it's a good idea to have a test actually in that specific place.
What are the safety requirements, the whole risk management and everything?
Yeah. So that was step 3. And then our idea was, if we start testing, let the test start and the companies give us their results, we would know how unmanned ships would behave in a real life environment. And based on these results, we could go to step 4 and change a little bit of the law, like give them a bit more space to test. And then if we would repeat this a lot of times, we would come to the final step, step 5, where we have commercially allowed unmanned shipping. But during the process, we thought, you can test in the test area and you have to comply with all the rules and regulations. Okay, but... we should be somehow more ambitious or give a little bit more freedom to really achieve realistic results. But that's not possible without changing the law. So we then decided to change the law a little bit by providing the possibility for people who want to test that they can get some exceptions of the rules. Not on all of it, but on some. Just for testing, we made this very broad just because we were afraid, again, if we would go too narrow, we might make the wrong decisions because we don't know how things work in real life and we might make mistakes, or maybe the situation could be more dangerous. And we wanted to be as safe or safer than what it is today. So, but to make sure that things are safe or as safe as possible, we have this procedure, which is based on the IMO circular, I think, 1415 or something.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. It's like a guideline in how to approach the risk management of novel solutions.
The Norwegian government is also using it, so we thought we can't do this alone. We have to sooner or later exchange ideas with other governments. So we're going to use the same one, but trying to apply it on waterways. So we made some changes, not so many. So the basic is the same, and now we're following this procedure to make sure that if a company wants to test, they have to prove to us that they actually really thought about it and thought about the safety and the risks before they actually can start testing.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
What are some of the identified these gaps in laws and regulations? Just give us a glimpse of what are like the main pain points that you discovered.
For example, that the shipmaster has to be on board of the ship. And then there is this very much well-known discussion, but if the shipmaster is in the shore control center, doesn't that mean he's still shipmaster?
What is on board, physically or digitally?
Yeah. Also, like the skills of the crew, for example, they will need more skills.
Like now we want more IT skills, for example.
But if they only work in the shore control center, for example, then they won't be able to work on board. But now the skills are just for people who are on board and not on the shore control center. So these things need to be researched on. Definitions is difficult. But most, next to these things, a lot of the other gaps or problems are more like uncertainties. Like something is written in some way in the regulation, but it doesn't really exclude unmanned shipping, but it doesn't really include it either. So
some gray zones of definitions that are not super exact. All right. Yeah, this is it will probably be challenging to it's potentially a lengthy process.
Yes, it is.
But it must be in some sort of way iterative, as you mentioned, that you gather practical experience, see what happened, and then adapt continuously.
But not too much on the other side as well, because if you are keeping on changing the law like every 6 months, then the companies won't have a basis to build their business case on. So we have to find the balance between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How lengthy can this process be? Did you have any experience? Did you already change something in currently active legislation?
Yes, we did.
All right.
We made this exception that we can give some exceptions on testers, and that's something that we established actually quite quickly, because also the minister and the political scene was really supporting it. Mm-hmm. So we got the best lawyers together and the people with the best expertise to make this little framework. But it's only a temporary framework, so it's not going to last forever. It's just for now to support the first tests. Mm-hmm. And then later on we might change something else. Like we were thinking, if somebody has been testing for 5 years, for example, because this law now is only for 5 years, then probably if he only tests in a certain space between A and B, he probably will have proven that things are safe.
But only for that particular small area.
Yes, and then he should be obliged to stop everything he does, because the law says only 5 years. So we are thinking maybe we should find a way to give them this specific company on this specific part of the waterway allowance to sail commercially on land. Okay. So that's something that's in the making, but we don't want to be too fast with it, because safety is very important.
Yes, all of the risks involved in this.
We need to know first for sure, is it safe enough?
And there's a completely new category of risks introduced into maritime. Yeah. So that's all hard not to crack in the beginning.
Yes. And also our legislation is based on international legislation, which is not the IMO, but then the CCNR and the European legislation. So if we want to do something or change something in Flanders forever, it has to be changed as well internationally. So that's why we only work with temporary rules, to reduce the risks and to have a kind of showcase for CCNR and Europe to show that things can be safe.
So you're pioneering this?
Yes, and we
paving the way?
Yes, started the discussion as well in the CCNR.
And then the bureaucratic wizardry or diplomatic wizardry will come to a conclusion at some point.
Yeah.
Right. I hope that this goes along with the commercial and the whole technological developments that we see now happening.
Yep.
Are there any tests already being performed? Did you test some interesting solutions?
We don't test ourselves, but there are some organizations that we're testing. There is a university testing with a scale model in the west of Flanders on the smaller inlet waterways, and they want to scale it up to a real vessel, but it's still a smaller vessel, like class 1 or 2 for inlet waterways. There has been a vessel from the port of Antwerp. It has been tested in the port itself, but also made a voyage in our canals. It was manned, but the
remote control?
Systems, it had to be manned because it was before we changed the law. But they tested their software as well, and that company will test its software in the near future as well on other ships. And for the rest, we are involved in some European funded projects where they are going to test autonomous mooring.
That's an interesting application.
Some other company will also test some of its software on another ship. But it's all quite small ships, class 1, class 2. We're not talking about the bigger ships yet.
Yeah, but you got to start small. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
And how is the cooperation between the Netherlands, the Belgium, the whole Benelux area? Is there something that you guys are trying to be on the same level, on the same page when it comes to regulations? You mentioned this European level, but also I guess there is much tighter cooperation in the Benelux.
The waterways don't stop at the border.
Exactly.
We shared waterways with France and the Netherlands and Germany as well a little bit. So we try to keep our neighboring countries involved, and especially with the Netherlands, we have already good cooperation for several years. And we try to align the way we work together, because we know that sooner or later, and probably sooner, there will be some companies who ask to have a cross-border test. So we don't want them to do something for us and then something completely different for the Netherlands. So we try to work together. And also, if we then have the results, we can share them together, and we can have a proposal to changing the law together. then we can show towards Europe and the CCNR it's actually working cross-border. And also the Benelux organization is now looking what they could do to support all these things that are happening. We're mainly focusing on ITS on the roads, but now they also included smart shipping to see what can be done inside the Benelux. And then you have the bigger one, CCNR, which is France and Switzerland and Germany also included.
All right.
A lot of things going on.
Yeah, I see. A lot of balls in the air juggling. But that's good. That's definitely challenging, but the way to go. So as I understood, are you like a one-stop shop for anything unmanned and autonomous in inland? So whoever has an idea or a potential project, you're the one who should they approach?
Yeah. I'm responsible for the smart shipping project, and if somebody applies for a test, it comes to me, and then I discuss with my team, with different experts on how this can be done. Or also international, I'm the point of contact. And
where can people find your contact or more information about?
On our website, but it's a bit hidden. So, but if you write down smart shipping and the Vlaamse Waterweg, you'll find it.
Sure, I'll also put a link in the show notes for people to make it easier. Great. Any future plans that you like to disclose? Where do you see the whole project going in the following 6 months, a year?
I hope it actually changes a lot. If we can really start with the tests, then we finally have enough test results to have a more insight on how these ships behave. And based on this information, we hopefully will know what will be the effects of the usage of smart ships on our own infrastructure and on the way we communicate now with the users of the inland waterways. So we expect that we might change, not completely, but change maybe a bit on how we work and how we serve our customers. So that's exciting. And then I hope also as well that we can really start to work on the international level inside the CCNR. We already did a kind of scoping exercise, similar to the IMO, but on smaller scale.
You want to present real results from real tests.
Yeah, we identified the topics that are interesting to work on and to do some more research on, and we might start a new working group inside the CCNR to discuss these things and then have international progress on it.
Great. Sounds like a perfect plan. And for the end, I wish you all the best. I hope that all of these tests prove themselves to be successful and that you integrate all of the data, and then we soon see regulatory and law changes. Because as we've seen, technology is here, and we are all excited to see about potential applications.
Yes, me too.
And again, thanks a lot for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed the talk.
That was about it for this episode. Thank you for listening. I've put links in the show notes, which you'll find on the episode page. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @AutonomousShips. You will also find us on Spotify, YouTube, and LinkedIn. If you like the episode, share it with your friends and colleagues on social media. It's just a few clicks away. And that is how we can grow our audience, improve our work, and continue bringing you interesting guests. As you already know, your feedback is very much appreciated and needed, so feel free to express it. Just send us an email or comment. Until next time, my friends, take care. Oi oi.